Everybody, it's Dr. Sam Robbins. Now, I recently did a video about the shocking truth about eggs, the pros and cons and warnings, and a lot of great questions. And today I'm going to talk about the top questions which I received, which I'll quickly go over right now. Are eggs good or bad for your health? Are they bad for your cholesterol levels? Are eggs good for your hormones, such as testosterone? Do they reduce inflammation? Are they good for increasing sex drive? Are they good for building muscle? Are they good for growing hair or if you have hair loss? Are they a good source of protein? And also, what if you're diabetic? Or is it okay for you to take eggs? Or also if you have high cholesterol levels? So let's get started. So the first one is, are eggs a healthy food? I think eggs are healthy for most people. And however, some people, just because of their genetics, when they have eggs, obviously, if they're allergic to them, it's not going to be good. Also, if they tend to have cholesterol problems genetically, most people, the cholesterol is not going to be affected by the eggs you eat or by the food. However, some people, they just get hypersensitive. So hopefully that's not you. Now, eggs are a great source of protein. They got the vitamins, the minerals, they got the B vitamins, the A, D, E, iron, and selenium. So they got the fat soluble vitamins. Now, there's also different ways you can cook eggs, whether you hard boil them and you can travel with them. If just all the different ways. The one thing is make sure you don't cook them with a bunch of junk. So to keep them healthy, right? If you're going to have a bunch of bacon and butter, and then you're going to have it with toast and all this other junk, it's going to then be not unhealthy. It's going to be unhealthy. It's a great source of protein, which I'll talk about. Unfortunately, the prices are a little bit higher these days. Now, again, some people are allergic to eggs. So if you are, you want to reduce them. As to how many you should have eggs a week, I personally have 2 or 3 whole eggs every night. And I'll tell you more about that later. Why? On average, I think most people should do maybe 6 to 8 total eggs a week. So maybe 2 eggs every other day. That's good for general people. But again, if you're working out, if you're lean, you're healthy, you can definitely consume more eggs. Now, the next question is, are eggs bad for your cholesterol levels? If you have high cholesterol, the yolk contains all the fat and all the cholesterol, right? That's why most people end up just having egg whites. And the yolk has about 200 milligrams of cholesterol. So about 35% of the egg is a saturated fat. The rest, though, is 40% is monounsaturated fat, which is good for you, and polyunsaturated fats. Again, that also includes omega-3, fatty fish oil. So that's really good for you. And thus, most of it is just heart healthy fat. Now, the newest research has said that when you consume cholesterol from the food, it doesn't get converted to the cholesterol that you see when you do a blood test. In fact, most of the cholesterol that gets produced in your body is through the liver. It's not from the foods you eat. So that's something to keep in mind. And I mentioned this in other videos. The majority of when people have higher cholesterol levels is because of the negative changes in your hormones due to aging. Now, I'm not going to dig deep into it, but if you think about it, it makes sense. This is why when women, all of a sudden, when they hit menopause, because their hormones change, all of a sudden their cholesterol levels shoot up. Also, when guys, as they get older, testosterone levels drop, cholesterol levels will go up. And so a lot of it has to do with genetics, of course, but just the negative changes in your hormones due to aging. So it's primarily not from the foods you eat. But if you have a lot of junky foods, then yes, obviously that's not going to be good for you. And by the way, if you do have high cholesterol levels, again, like I said, because of aging and all these different factors, this is what happened with my own parents. I put links below this video on how you can naturally lower your cholesterol levels, so without having to take drugs or even having to change your diet or your exercise and eating what you eat. The next question is, are eggs good or bad for your hormones? They are good because, like I said, eggs contain cholesterol, and the cholesterol is needed to produce your sex hormones, such as testosterone and estrogen. And in fact, cholesterol is actually a steroid, more specifically a sterol, and that's because it shares the same 4 carbon ring structure as testosterone and estrogen. Again, they're all steroids. Now, I noticed people who have very low cholesterol levels, like people who take statin cholesterol lowering drugs, they also tend to have lower testosterone levels. And I've noticed guys who have lower testosterone levels, lower cholesterol, also have lower libidos and things like that. That's why I eat, 2 to 3 whole eggs every night. I swear to God that when I don't take it for 2-3 nights, I notice that my morning erections are much less. But when I do have more eggs, everything is better. My mood is better. And I can just tell you that it works if you're considering, if you want to improve your testosterone levels and your hormones. So yes, eggs, I think, are good for your hormones. The next question is, are eggs inflammatory? As I've discussed in other videos, inflammation happens when you get older a lot of times, and it really has a lot of negatives. But granted, there are also positives. Everything in the body has got a pros and cons, but too much inflammation from stress ends up causing joint pain. It's not good for your heart, for your brain, for your muscles, and so forth. So are eggs inflammatory or the anti-inflammatory? They're actually both. The anti-inflammatory part is the choline found in the egg yolk, which can help reduce inflammatory markers. It's got lutein and xanthine, and antioxidants in the yolks have anti-inflammatory properties. Also, the phospholipids in the egg yolks also have anti-inflammatory effects. Unfortunately, though, also there are inflammatory responses. The different acids, there's omega-6 fatty acids, which may or may not cause inflammation. There's TMAO, that's a compound produced from the choline and the gut bacteria. So there's a little bit of inflammation. However, taking all this into account in the research, eggs typically seem to be more anti-inflammatory rather than pro-inflammatory. Also, again, it depends on how you cook them. If you're going to fry them with a bunch of junk and have it with, a bunch of morning cereals and carbs and fats and bacon and all that stuff, yeah, it's going to end up causing inflammation. But just by itself, they're pretty good. They don't cause inflammation. Again, I've had a lot of eggs in my time, and all my inflammatory markers have always been really good and below normal. So take it for what you can. Do eggs increase your sex drive? As I said earlier, I think they do. Cholesterol in the eggs is needed for testosterone production, and I always have a lot more morning erections when I consume eggs, especially when I had it late at night, because that cholesterol is utilized at night to produce testosterone in the morning. Are eggs good for muscle building? And if you recall, well, you don't know, but in the old days, Arnold and all those guys used to just have a lot of steak and whole eggs. And whether it was true or not, but they noticed that they produced better muscles. Maybe it was the excess calories or not. But remember, that cholesterol in the eggs is required to make testosterone. So obviously more testosterone, more muscle mass, and so forth. So that's really good. Another benefit is that eggs are super high quality protein. The bioavailability of eggs is almost 100%. That means your body will readily absorb it. There's also leucine in eggs is high. That's an amino acid needed to produce muscles. Like I said, the cholesterol in the eggs is good for testosterone. The additional nutrients in the choline and the iron and the B12 and some vitamin D. So there's a lot of benefits to eggs. It's a great source of protein, good calories, good for testosterone. So yeah, definitely good for building muscle. The next question is, are eggs good for hair growth? Maybe if you're losing your hair and so forth. In the old days, they'd actually take whole eggs and they'd smash it up and they'd put it on someone's scalp to grow hair. It didn't work. But again, it's a good source of protein, and your body and hair requires protein. It's got a lot of, again, vitamins and choline and fat soluble A and D and E. And so there's selenium that's good for hair growth. And it's got some, if you get the pasture raised eggs, which I suggest, it also has some omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for hair growth. Again, it's not going to grow hair. Like if you're balding, it's not going to grow back the hair, but it's definitely good at keeping your hair shinier and healthier. So keep that in mind. Another question is, are eggs a good source of protein? The whole egg is a great source of protein that, like I said, it's a perfect amino acid. You have half of them in the egg white and the other half in the egg yolk. So it's perfect. Nature made it just perfect. Now, if people taking a lot of egg whites, it's not the perfect protein. It doesn't have the same 100 score bioavailability that a whole egg does. And again, whole eggs have higher bioavailability than most proteins. I think like cow milk is like 95, and then beef is like 80, and fish is like 76. I think only whey protein is a little bit higher, like maybe 104, 105. But it's the whole egg that matters. Now, if you want to take in a lot of egg whites, which a lot of people do, maybe do a bunch of egg whites and throw in at least one whole egg to balance out all the amino acids, the essential and non-essential ones, or maybe 2 whole eggs. So at the very least, drop in 1 whole egg if you're going to have an egg white omelet or whatever. Now, another question is, I'm diabetic. Can I eat eggs? Is it okay? And the answer is yes. Eggs are great for everyone, especially if you're diabetic. First of all, they're low in carbohydrates. Like there's really no carbohydrates. Basically, it's just all protein and fat. They're high in protein, which is good. And then the fat is, again, like I said it earlier, it's got a lot of benefits of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. So if you're diabetic, it's actually a great food because it doesn't do anything to your blood sugar and doesn't cause the inflammation or that can lead to potential diabetic problems if you have high inflammatory markers. And again, doesn't do anything to your blood sugar levels. So whether you're diabetic or non-diabetic, eggs are great. It's again one of my favorite foods. The whole egg is everything. It tastes good, and the best part is that even though it's a higher fat meal, it's really easy to digest. That's why I take it at night. It's slow to digest as far as the blood sugar doesn't do any of that, but it doesn't cause me any stomach problems. Of course, unless you tend to be allergic to eggs. Hopefully you're not. With that, I hope this was helpful. Let me know your questions below. As always, have a great day.